Tommy has no one to blame but himself for what might well be a prison sentence in the following days for contempt of court, for breaching an injunction to prevent him from repeating evidence which he brought as defence to the libel charge brought by the Syrian immigrant Jamal Hijazi for statements which Tommy made about this immigrant lad's alleged propensity for violence against girls, which was shown to be false when put under the microscope of the court. Tommy has no legitimate grievance. He's done all this with his eyes wide open, and he is leading his many well-intentioned supporters, including no doubt quite a few of you folks, up the garden path and out of pocket. This video, as you will have noticed, steps outside the normal confines of the echo chamber. People do seem to like my forensic approach, but they also seem to think that this kind of a forensic lens can somehow be configured to point in only one direction. It doesn't work that way. It's worth saying that just to soften the blow for what's to come, but also since I will be absolutely deluged with a tsunami of downvotes as this video progresses, probably now from the Echo Chamber Brigade, if you would be so kind as to lend me a like on this video up front. You can always take it back at the end if you want. That will assist in counteracting the downvote tidal wave and give the algorithm a little boost. Okay, a video of mine was posted in a Twitter thread which got quite an enthusiastic response, since when I have been inundated with several hundred versions of one particularly badly informed comment. So, starting with this, which I posted in response to Tommy's, as it was then, most recent claim to martyrdom. This is rubbish. The reason Tommy will likely go to jail is that he defied a legitimate and reasonable court order to prevent him spreading lies about the debunked evidence he offered in his libel defence. Tommy was not cheated and he has no one to blame but himself. And this elicited one of many versions of the same comment. Almost without fail, anyone who says that S-word above simply hasn't watched the documentary. They're just jumping on the same old narrative given by the establishment. Weak people! Me, I must have heard this line 1,000 times. I understand it, because I thought the same thing when I first saw it. I thought, geez, this is an outrage. Unfortunately, Tommy's lies are only half the story, which are debunked by the other half, i.e. the court scrutiny. Followers of this channel may remember that I actually made a video about Tommy's film after seeing it. This one here, which I uploaded on June the 12th last year. I rushed it out of public view once I'd realised that I'd been had, but this is an extract from it. And I'm also going to use this as a pivot into the main point of the video. So here I am, questioning media double standards in the video which I made after watching Tommy's film. And if a boy pouring the contents of a bottle of water over another boy causes media hell and high water to be rained down on the perpetrator, why does a boy hitting a girl on the back with a hockey stick not cause any kind of a ripple whatsoever? Because my slightly younger and less informed self, it didn't happen. So what I'm going to do here is take a very close look using the full spectrum of information available at one representative example for brevity and simplicity. And when his film came out, indulging a spot of the abstract here, the film was all we had, so this information spectrum space was filled by the film and nothing else. But when the court report came out, it changed from this here to this, film now occupying only half the spectrum and the court case occupying the other. There are three parts to this full information space, and starting with the film and my selected example of the hockey stick incident in which a girl claimed to have been attacked by the immigrant boy in question, and which Tommy used in his defence.
Basically, we were in a PE lesson and we were playing hockey with a teacher called Mr. Cattell, and I had taken the hockey puck off of Jamal because I was on the other team and sent it to the other side of the room where my teammates were, and I then turned around and just felt a really sharp pain in my back, and he'd swung the hockey stick over his head and hit me in the spine with it. It knocked me to my knees. I've had lasting injuries from it. It's caused me to have severe pain in the top of my back, and I'm on medication for the pain.
Still now?
Yeah.
The crucial thing is that this is where most people tune out. So of course they think it's an outrage. Who wouldn't? But we are blessed with more information. and we can move on to part 2, which 99.999% of people don't see. The video couldn't be played in court, obviously, because it's an edited, pixelated clip of an unidentified girl. We need to know who the girl is, and we need to get a full explanation, not just an edited one, which is then signed, sealed, and delivered. And we get that in the form of a written statement, which is in effect the video up to the required standards. The whole thing occupies just one page. It starts here, and the bit relevant to that clip is down the bottom. I still suffer pain and discomfort to my back. I have attended my GP and had different x-rays and MRI scans. I currently see a chiropractor for the pain and take medication from my doctor. I take 30 milligrams of codeine up to 4 times a day and 25 milligrams of pregabalin twice a day, as well as paracetamol and ibuprofen. This is basically repeating her content in the film, but the film stops there. There is no scrutiny. This is now the scrutiny. According to Charlie, she had undergone both x-rays and MRI scans. There are no records. Fourth, Charlie claimed, even now, 4 years later, to be in significant pain as a result of the incident and still to be taking prescription painkillers. Yet, no medical records have been produced to confirm this. On the contrary, the only information I have from Charlie's GP is a letter from the 18th of January 2018 stating that she has no medical problems. In her evidence, Charlie stated this is the same GP who, she claimed, had been prescribing her pain relief medication. The hockey stick incident, as described by Charlie, did not happen. So the full spectrum of information, which for most people stops halfway through after the film, is now complete. Start with the film alone. Turn the film content into a properly scrutinizable statement and scrutinize it. Scrutinize this. I have attended my GP and had different x-rays and MRI scans, and that results in there are no records. Scrutinize this. I take 30 milligrams of codeine up to 4 times a day, etc., and that results in the only information I have from Charlie's GP is a letter stating that she has no medical problems. This is just a tiny part of the scrutiny of her statement, and the totality of that is only a small part of the whole thing. The demands of brevity. It's a microcosm of everything, of the lot. The rest is much the same, just less categoric. But what could be more categoric than there are no records where there absolutely would be records? The actual evidence range is something like excessively vague through very implausible up to downright impossible. And if you want to see the lot, not just a closely examined extract, you can have a look at my video, and I will put the link in the description box of this video. Now I have laid out in the clearest possible terms film, statement, scrutiny. Claim plus scrutiny equals claim debunked. So you see how your initial perception of the film, the only perception that most people have, is literally turned on its head with more information. Most people stop at the film because the bar to going beyond that is so high. You have to either read a 30-page, an 80-page judgment, or watch my film, which is 30 minutes long, but it's still quite an ask to get through the lot of it. So it is entirely reasonable that people think that Tommy has been censored for telling the truth. But now that you've seen a tiny extract from it, representative of the whole thing, laid out as painfully categorically as it is possible to lay the thing out, if you are still saying that, either you're acting in bad faith or you have other problems, shall we say. And some people will be acting in bad faith and some people will have other problems. I hope that's not you. There were many things in the film outside of what was specifically relevant to his libel defence and were not considered, and therefore there was no scrutiny. What I'm thinking about here particularly is the apparent non-disclosure agreements where teachers were apparently paid to not talk about the matter. The reason I mention this is that they are a red herring constantly raised as if they were somehow relevant. Tommy's defence did not include NDAs because NDAs did not have any defence value against the libel claims. So his defence's ultimate failure was not contingent on lack of such evidence. Once his defence was shown to have failed, it is quite understandable that his supporters want to clutch at the remaining straws. NDAs, and also those Muslim threats, and we do have screenshots of that. This is a charming little compendium of such, with much blanking out for YouTube sensibilities. I get the confusion. The sheer proximity of those things to the issue leads people to think that they should be relevant. However, the simple fact is, somebody paying a teacher something for some reason does not act as a defence to Tommy's claims. It's as simple as that. All of that you've just seen sits within the scope of the libel defence and his false claims to have been unfairly treated and censored. But there is more, and this goes to the whole dishonest nature of the thing. In this photo, Tommy's on the left with the older brother of Bailey McLaren, Rhys McLaren, circled underneath in the photo. And this photo was posted earlier this year, 23rd of January, on the older McLaren boy's Twitter. And you can see how he says it's from almost a decade before the incident. A young Tommy and Mac, 2009-2010. Tommy posts underneath, memories, and Rhys comes back from the very beginning. I believe Big Brother is a friend of his from his EDL days, but I can't confirm that. We all understood that Tommy's involvement in this was entirely organic. He heard about it the same way the rest of us did. He hot-footed it up there, he found the family, he got to know them, and he impartially assessed the situation. He never mentioned that, amazingly coincidental as it is, he was in fact a long-time friend of the family. Why not? Because he goes from being an impartial observer, as we all thought, to having an axe to grind on behalf of the family, and his position therefore needs to be taken with a bucket load of salt. Do you remember the South Cambridgeshire police matter, where Tommy forgot, again, to mention that there was actually a police operation in the pub, which ended up making the police look a whole lot less bad than they were, in fact quite reasonable. Do you see the pattern of dishonesty? So this here is very revealing. He is fighting for our country, which is more than the C words turning it into a third world shithole are doing. I don't give a shit about any technicalities. Technicalities is a euphemism for the facts of the matter. In other words, Tommy can say anything, I don't care. The high I get from the rallies, the hero worship, the god worship, the donations, that's all that matters. I initially had my doubts about this being a grift. It didn't seem to make a lot of sense. But when you look at the sheer scale that he's aiming at, the money aspect does make more sense, and you can overthink these things. Doesn't everything come down to money at the end of the day? Yeah, prison time, but if you're looking at being picked up by an Aston DB9 at the gates, that makes the whole prison thing look entirely less impalatable. Tommy is not going to let this go while he is coining it, whether he is in jail or subsequently outside jail. But apart from that aspect, the money aspect, there is nowhere to go with this because his claims are a hoax, which you will understand, which I'm sure you do understand, taking into account absolutely everything and not just what suits, as in everything I've laid out, which is summarised here. You cannot sustain a hoax. It can't lead anywhere that you want it to lead because it's not factually based. It won't lead here to the exposure of deep state corruption because the deep state is not at fault. But it will carry on leading somewhere lucrative for him while your debit cards are still freely flowing. And when the proverbial hits the fan and you end up disappointed and frustrated, yeah, partially blame Tommy, but also blame the people who financed it and allowed it to happen. Or simply stop it from happening. It's not about deep state corruption. It's not about Tommy being censored. And if you don't understand that now that I've laid it out as clearly as I have, you never will. I cannot lay it out any clearer than this. And it's certainly nothing to do with Islam. To be quite honest, it's about Tommy defrauding you. Obtaining money by deception is fraud, and he's deceiving you. I am being prosecuted in the High Court for contempt for daring to show the world the truth about what happened in Almondbury. The lie, he's not, he breached a legitimate injunction followed by the begging bowl. How is that not money by deception, or fraud by false representation, as they call it? That is the lie, that is the money pitch. How is that essentially different to the Nigerian who gets money for an air ticket off a woman who he's promised to marry, then she never hears from him again? It's money by deception. Why not earmark your money for a worthy cause? For example, for the fundraiser of the 5-year-old son of Rhiannon Sky White, who worked in an immigrant hotel and who was killed by an immigrant. Do you think that might be a better cause? Well, do you know what? I can do both. No, either put it all towards the deserving cause, or put half of it towards the deserving cause and keep the rest for yourself. This is not a criticism of well-intentioned supporters and rallygoers who are not happy, for example, that Peter Lynch was sentenced to death for shouting, while the Manchester Airport Muslim attackers haven't even been charged, and they even might in fact prosecute the cops who were attacked. It is also not a criticism of the people who are not happy that a recent immigrant kills a woman working in a hotel which is putting him up for free. It's obviously not a criticism of those people, but can those well-intentioned people please stop allowing themselves to be fleeced by these lies? And to underline that again, and to finish off with the main point of the video, I'll leave my little summary screen up for a few seconds at the end. Remember, the claim, "Oh my god, it's outrageous, have you watched the film?" Have I heard that 1,000 times at this point? Then the scrutiny, "Oh, I get it, claim debunked." Claim, scrutiny, debunked.